Chapter 1. The Visit. Do you think she'll make it through the night? I asked my wife quietly as we walked through the cold, sterile hallway of the ER. The hallway lights flickered in that dim, soul-sucking way hospitals always manage to perfect. Somewhere down the corridor, a monitor beeped in erratic rhythm, as if echoing the panic swelling in my chest. Samantha didn't answer right away. Her heels clicked against the tile floor, a sharp contrast to the muffled cries and hushed voices around us. She was wearing her camel-colored trench coat, the one she usually saved for business lunches or brunch with her wine club. Her makeup was pristine, lipstick too bright, her perfume too strong for a hospital room. I caught a whiff of it and instinctively stepped a little away. It had started to bother me lately, or maybe everything about her had. She finally spoke, her voice flat. "She'll be okay. She's strong." Then she glanced at her phone, thumbs tapping quickly as the glow lit up her perfectly manicured face. I wanted to scream at her. Strong? Our daughter had a tumor the size of a dam, fist pressing against her spine. She was 12. 12, and she'd been fading for months like a flower wilting in slow motion. But Samantha still clung to this surface-level optimism, always performing, always polished, always somewhere else. We reached room 217. The nameplate said Ellie Reynolds in dry erase marker beneath a faded cartoon sticker. I took a breath, plastered a weak smile on my face, and pushed the door open. The room was dim, save for the soft glow of the vitals monitor and the pale light bleeding through the blinds. Ellie lay there, tiny and too still, her golden hair damp against her forehead. For lines ran from her arm. Oxygen hissed softly from the tube in her nose. Machines surrounded her like silent, indifferent guards. I walked to her bedside slowly. "Hey, kiddo," I said, my voice cracking halfway through. Her eyes fluttered open. Weak, glassy, but they still found mine. And for a second, the world narrowed, just me and her. "Daddy," she whispered, trying to smile. Her lips barely moved. "I'm here," I said, kneeling beside the bed. I reached out, brushing her hair back. "Mom's here too." Samantha stepped forward, offering a tight smile. "Hi, baby. You look so much better than yesterday." Ellie blinked, her gaze drifting. Her face twitched slightly. Was that a flinch? I wasn't sure. Then her eyes darted back to me. She reached out with trembling fingers, brushing the back of my hand. "Daddy," her voice was barely audible. I leaned in. "What is it, sweetie?" She hesitated. Her lips trembled. Then in a whisper so low I almost missed it, she said, "Can you look at my back?" I frowned. "Your back." She nodded. "Slow. Weak." Her voice cracked. "It hurts." I glanced up at Samantha, who stood frozen a few feet away, arms crossed, clutching her purse like a shield. "She's sore," Samantha said quickly, avoiding my eyes. "She's been lying down for days, Mike." But Ellie shook her head, tears glistening in her lashes. "Please," something about her tone, pleading, scared, sent a chill crawling up my spine. I gently peeled the thin sheet down to her waist. Her hospital gown was crumpled, sweat-stained. My hands moved carefully as I reached under her, lifting just enough fabric to reveal the pale, fragile skin of her lower back. And then I saw them. I froze. There, just above her hip, were bruises. Deep, purple, fresh. Circular. Like fingertips. Gripping fingertips. I stared. Time slowed. My breathing stopped. My first instinct was denial. My brain scrambled for an explanation. Maybe a nurse had lifted her wrong. Maybe the four-pole had bumped her. Maybe, but no. These weren't accidental. I worked with my hands my whole life. I knew bruises. These were grip marks. Fingers that had held her down. Pressed too hard. Left a story in skin. "What the hell?" I breathed, barely able to form the words. "Michael," Samantha said, voice sharp behind me. "Don't jump to conclusions. She's sick. Her body bruises easier." I turned to her slowly. Her face was pale. She took a step back. One hand clutched her phone, knuckles white. "She asked me to look," I said. "Not you." Samantha opened her mouth, but no words came out. Ellie's eyes were filled with tears now, blinking rapidly. "It hurts, Daddy," she whimpered. I pressed the call button. Hard. A nurse's voice crackled through the intercom. "Yes." I need a doctor. Right now, I said. My voice was low, controlled, but shaking. On the way, Mr. Reynolds. Samantha shifted behind me. Her fingers flew over her phone. She wasn't texting me. I knew that. My gut twisted. The door opened. Dr. Flanders, a gray-haired pediatric specialist, entered with a clipboard and furrowed brow. I need you to look at these marks, I said, stepping back and motioning toward Ellie. Now, he approached, pulled on gloves, and gently examined her lower back. His expression shifted instantly from curiosity to concern, then to something close to shock. He looked up at me, then at Samantha, then back at me. These aren't pressure sores, he said. His voice was tight, measured. These are pattern contusions. Recent. Finger marks, I'd say. Samantha stepped forward, almost pleading. Doctor, she's terminally ill. Her skin is sensitive. That could be. Dr. Flanders cut her off. Mrs. Reynolds, I've been doing this for 30 years. These marks were made by a human hand. Silence filled the room. My throat felt dry. My fists clenched without realizing. Ellie had gone quiet again, eyes closed, the weight of exhaustion pulling her away. But her small hand still held my wrist. I'm calling it in, Dr. Flanders said. We're obligated to notify authorities in cases like this. Samantha's face went pale as snow. I didn't take my eyes off her. She looked like a cornered animal. Caught. Exposed. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. My hands didn't shake this time. I dialed 911. The line connected. 911, what's your emergency? I looked straight at Samantha as I said, I need to report an assault on a minor. The evidence is fresh. Samantha stumbled backward, lips parting, but nothing came out. Dr. Flanders turned to the nurse, who had just entered the room. Seal the room. No one leaves. The nurse nodded, eyes wide. Yes, doctor. Samantha's eyes darted toward the door, toward me, toward the bed. And then the doctor looked down again, examined Ellie's back once more, and said, almost to himself, in disbelief, This is unbelievable. I heard Samantha's breath hitch. Her body stiffened, and then she turned pale, ghost pale, as if her soul had been yanked from her chest. Chapter 2. The Bruises. My hands were shaking. I didn't even realize it until I reached for the call button again and missed. I steadied myself and pressed it hard, the plastic clicking loudly in the silent room. Ellie had drifted back into that exhausted sleep again, but my heart was still slamming in my chest. Samantha stood frozen in place, her back to the window, arms tightly crossed. She wasn't looking at me, or at Ellie. She was staring at the far wall, like if she kept her eyes away long enough, this whole thing might disappear. The intercom crackled. Yes, Mr. Reynolds? I need a doctor, I said. Now. It's urgent. Within minutes, Dr. Flanders returned, this time with a nurse trailing him. He stepped inside briskly, concern already creasing his brow. What's going on? He asked. I stood beside Ellie, pointing at the bruises again. You need to see this. On her lower back. He walked over, pulling on gloves methodically as the nurse closed the door behind her. Samantha still hadn't moved. Her jaw was clenched so tight I could see the tension in her neck. Dr. Flanders gently adjusted Ellie's gown. The moment he saw the marks, his whole demeanor changed. Jesus, he muttered under his breath, leaning in for a closer inspection. These aren't from any hospital procedure. He looked up at me. How long have these been here? I just saw them, I said. She asked me to check. She said it hurt. The doctor looked grim. These are fresh. Deep tissue bruising. This isn't from lying on a bed. These are fingertip patterns. Someone gripped her here. Forcefully. My gut twisted. I already knew, but hearing it confirmed hit me like a blow to the chest. Samantha finally spoke. Are you sure? She said, her voice high and tight. Maybe a nurse was trying to reposition her, and Dr. Flanders cut her off without even glancing at her. I know what accidental bruising looks like. This isn't it. The nurse beside him frowned, whispering something into her tablet. I couldn't hear what. Samantha took a shaky breath and stepped forward. Her heels clicked against the tile. I'm just saying, she stammered, she's terminal. Her skin is sensitive. Maybe it's a pressure bruise or the four got caught. Mrs. Reynolds, the doctor said firmly. Please stop. Samantha's lips parted like she wanted to argue more, but no words came out. I turned toward her fully now. You want to tell me again how this could happen? While she's in a hospital bed, hooked to tubes, monitored 24/7. She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not concern, not worry, fear. I don't know, Mike, she muttered. I really don't. Why won't you look me in the eye? I am looking at you. No, I said. You're not. She turned her head, biting her lip, arms still hugging her torso like she needed to hold herself together. The nurse moved quietly toward the computer in the corner and began typing notes. Dr. Flanders took off his gloves slowly and turned to me. Mr. Reynolds, I'm obligated to document this and report it to the hospital's safeguarding team. But in cases like this, he hesitated. It's also appropriate to involve law enforcement. I nodded, already pulling out my phone. Yeah, I said. I figured. Good, he said, his voice calm but heavy. You're doing the right thing. Samantha turned sharply. The right thing. Her voice was rising now. You're calling the police? Mike, she's sick. We don't need drama. We need peace. She's dying. I don't give a damn what she's dying from. I snapped. No one lays a hand on my daughter. Not now. Not ever. Her eyes darted between me and the door, like she wanted to escape, or rewind the clock. I stepped out into the hallway with the phone against my ear. The 911 operator answered, calm and detached. 911, what's your emergency? I kept my voice level. I need to report suspected abuse of a minor. We're at West Grove Memorial. Pediatric ICU. Room 217. The operator took down my information and assured me an officer would be dispatched immediately. I returned to the room as Samantha sat stiffly in the corner chair, hands in her lap, nails digging into her palms. She's resting, the nurse said softly. We've administered a small dose of morphine. She won't feel the soreness for a while. Thank you, I said, brushing Ellie's hair back one more time. Her skin felt cold. There was a soft knock on the door. A uniformed officer stepped inside, mid-30s calm, clipboard in hand. Officer Jenkins, he said, nodding at each of us. Mind if I ask a few questions? Dr. Flanders stayed. Samantha shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Go ahead, I said. He began with the basics, names, dates, Ellie's condition, recent visitors. I answered everything I could. Then he turned to Samantha. Mrs. Reynolds, how often are you alone with your daughter? Her smile was stiff. I'm her mother. I'm with her often. Often like daily? Overnight. She's been in here over a week, she said, her voice getting defensive. I visit. I sleep here sometimes. Her dad's always working. I shot her a look. The officer did too. Do you recall her complaining about pain in her back before today? No, Samantha said too quickly. She never said a word. Officer Jenkins jotted something down, then looked at me. Has her daughter ever expressed fear of anyone around her? Family, staff? I hesitated, then nodded slowly. Not directly, but she's been quieter around some people, especially this week. She's asked for me a lot more. The officer nodded, making another note. Samantha started tapping her fingernail against her coffee cup nervously. The sound was rapid, grating. She has cancer, she blurted suddenly. You people are acting like someone beat her. The officer closed his notebook gently. Ma'am, with all due respect, the marks on your daughter's back don't look like illness. They look like violence. Samantha's mouth opened, but no sound came. I watched her carefully. Her breathing was too fast. Her palms were sweaty. She wiped them on her designer slacks when she thought no one was looking. Something was off. Something was very off. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a few bruises. This was about truth finally crawling into the light, no matter how hard she tried to keep it buried. Chapter 3. The Pattern. They say hindsight is 20/20. Funny how damn true that is, especially when your world's already cracked open and the truth is finally forcing itself through the seams. I sat in the plastic chair beside Ellie's hospital bed, my elbows resting on my knees, hands still trembling. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only sound keeping me grounded, anchoring me to the moment, so I didn't drift off into the storm raging inside my head. But I couldn't help it. My mind began slipping backward, rewinding months. Little things, small signs, things I should have seen, should have questioned, but didn't. It started last fall. Samantha had just started this new wellness phase, she called it. Smoothies, spin class, yoga 3 times a week. At first, I encouraged it. Hell, after everything with Ellie's diagnosis, I thought maybe it was her way of coping, keeping herself together. I'm meeting a trainer named Cassie, she told me one night, lacing up her sneakers. We do vinyasa at that place on Halston Avenue. You should come sometime. I had smiled. You know, I'd fold like a lawn chair doing that stuff. She laughed, but it was a distant laugh, like it was being performed, not felt. Then came the late nights. The gym didn't close until 9, she'd say. Then there'd be drinks with some of the girls. Except, the girls never came up by name. Not once. And her phone, always face down. Always locked. I remembered when we used to sit on the couch, scrolling through photos of Ellie, laughing at dumb memes. Now she was all, it's just work stuff, or just mindless crap. Passwords changed. She even changed the lock screen. Used to be a photo of the 3 of us from Ellie's 8th birthday at the beach. Now it was just some abstract painting. Artful. Cold. One night, about 3 months ago, I had made dinner. Steak, asparagus, garlic mashed potatoes. Her favorite. Lit a candle, even chilled her white wine. She came home around 9:30, still in yoga gear, hair tied up in a 2-perfect bun. Her cheeks flushed like she'd just run a marathon. I thought maybe she was just healthy, working hard, pushing herself. The hell is this? She said, eyeing the table like it was a prank. Just dinner, I said. Felt like doing something special. She sighed, set her gym bag down, and looked at her phone again before glancing back at me. You didn't need to do this, Mike. I already grabbed something with the girls. Then she kissed me on the cheek, mechanically, and went upstairs. I stood there for a while. The steak grew cold. A week later, Ellie said something that sliced deeper than any of Samantha's absences. We were in the living room. She was curled up under a blanket on the couch, pale, tired, but alert. I was watching a rerun of some game I'd missed that week, and she was drawing in her sketch pad. Dad, she said softly. Yeah, Peanut. Why is Mom always gone now? The question knocked the air out of me. I smiled it off. She's just working hard, baby, keeping herself strong. Ellie looked at me, then back down at her drawing. She used to braid my hair before bed. Her voice had no malice in it, just sadness. I blinked away the sting behind my eyes and turned the TV off. Want me to try braiding? I asked. She grinned. You'll mess it up. I'll mess it up beautifully. But even then, I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. I chalked it up to grief, exhaustion, denial. We were watching our little girl fade before our eyes, who wouldn't act strange under that pressure. I made excuses for Samantha, to Ellie, to myself. But now, sitting here, watching Ellie sleep, machines keeping time beside her, those bruises burned into my memory, I couldn't deny it anymore. Something was off, more than just a crack in the marriage. There was a pattern. Samantha's coldness, the secrecy, her anxiety at the hospital when I found the bruises, the excuses, the way her eyes dodged mine like I was a cop and she was hiding something. And now Ellie, asking me to check her back, whispering, scared. What if this wasn't new? What if she'd seen something, heard something, and didn't know how to tell me? What if someone had been in our home when I wasn't? What if Samantha wasn't just distant, but hiding something darker? The thought made my stomach turn. I stood and walked to the window, staring out over the parking lot bathed in orange hospital floodlights. I could see my truck down there, dented door and all. Still had Ellie's old soccer sticker on the back window. We used to drive to practice every Saturday. Samantha used to come too. Those days felt like another life now. I rubbed my temples, my thoughts spiraling. I remember the night I came home early from the job site. A delivery got delayed, so I left before sunset. Samantha wasn't expecting me. I'd opened the front door and heard a click from upstairs. The bathroom door shut fast. Too fast. She came down a minute later, towel around her neck, pretending she'd just finished a shower. Said she'd gotten in early and squeezed in a home workout. I had kissed her cheek. Her skin was cool, not flushed. That moment came roaring back now like a freight train. I'd pushed it away then. Didn't want to be that guy. Didn't want to spy on my wife. Didn't want to be paranoid. But maybe I should have been. Maybe Ellie's bruises weren't an isolated incident. Maybe this wasn't just a tragic coincidence. I sat back down next to her, gently taking her hand. Her fingers were small, limp, but they curled faintly around mine. "I'm going to find out the truth," I whispered to her. "I promise." And as I sat there in the low hum of the monitors, the hospital lights flickering above like dying stars, I knew one thing for sure. Now, seeing Ellie bruised, I was finally piecing things together. Chapter 4. The Whispers. The house was too quiet when I walked in. No hospital beeping, no nurses shuffling around, no low murmurs from overworked doctors trying to sound calm. Just stillness. A haunting, hollow silence that settled on my shoulders the second I stepped inside. Our home was supposed to be a place of peace, a place where Ellie laughed and colored on the walls when she thought I wouldn't notice. Instead, it felt like a crime scene waiting to be outlined. I tossed my keys on the counter and stared at the framed photo on the wall, the three of us at that pumpkin patch upstate, grinning stupidly in those orange hay bales. Ellie's cheeks were full and pink back then. Samantha had her arms around me like she meant it. I used to look at that photo and feel something warm. Now I just felt cold. I walked to the living room and sat on the couch, elbows on my knees. My hands felt like lead. I didn't want to be here, not without Ellie. But I needed answers, and I knew where to look. The security system was wired through the panel in the hallway closet. I'd installed it myself 2 years ago after someone broke into a neighbor's garage. For cameras, motion sensors, backup cloud storage. Solid setup, except the last few times I checked the app on my phone, the system had been offline. A glitch, Samantha said. Something about the Wi-Fi. She told me she'd unplugged it once to reset it. I popped open the panel now. The DVR was dark. Unplugged. Figures. I powered it back on. It blinked to life, but I could already see that something was wrong. The logs were patchy, incomplete. Whole days were missing. Gaps of 6, 8, even 12 hours. Conveniently, most of the missing footage was from nights I worked late or did overnight shifts at the site. I tapped through the dates, growing sicker by the second. Glitch my ass. Something deeper stirred inside me, the kind of anger that simmers beneath the surface like a volcano gathering pressure. I didn't yell. I didn't slam anything. I just stared, my fists clenched slowly, deliberately. I needed more. I headed upstairs. Samantha's office, if you could call it that, was still the mess of notebooks, yoga gear, and scented candles it had always been. But I remembered something. A year ago, I'd help her sync her iPad with our family Apple account. She complained about losing her calendar between devices. I hadn't touched that iPad since. She said she didn't use it anymore, claimed it was too old and laggy. It was sitting on the bottom shelf of the bookcase, between 2 recipe books that had never been cracked open, covered in dust. I picked it up and pressed the power button. The Apple logo glowed on the screen. My heart started to pound. Once it unlocked, I tapped into the Messages app. Most threads had been deleted, but she'd forgotten one thing. If the account is synced and the messages aren't deleted everywhere, some still show up in iCloud backups. I toggled the setting, and there they were. One thread stood out. Hey, no photo. Just the letter. Anonymous, private, but intimate. The messages came in short bursts, back and forth. Casual. Familiar. Sinister in how ordinary they looked. I tapped into the thread and scrolled. I hate pretending. I just can't keep doing this much longer. I know, baby. Soon. After Ellie's gone, I'm yours. I blinked. After Ellie's gone. I read it again. And again. She wasn't talking about a divorce. She wasn't talking about us. She was talking about my daughter dying like it was a checkpoint. Like it was just a hurdle on her way to a new life. I kept scrolling, nausea crawling up the back of my throat. He's always working. Doesn't even notice. That's why I like meeting there. No one suspects a thing. She was sleeping. Don't worry. She won't remember. That one hit like a punch to the gut. I froze, the screen glaring up at me in the dim room. My hands went numb. My chest tightened. She was there. Ellie. Not just some faceless child in the background. Our daughter. In the same house. Maybe even in the same room. Hearing things. Seeing things. While dying. I leaned back on the wall, the iPad slipping to my lap. My mind went blank for a moment, like it was trying to shield itself from impact. My wife, the woman I built a life with, had not only betrayed me, she had done it around our daughter. While she was sick, vulnerable, helpless. That wasn't just betrayal. That was cruelty, and I hadn't seen it. Not until now. I was too busy working overtime, trying to keep our bills paid, drowning in the fear of losing Ellie. I thought Samantha was grieving in her own way, coping, distracted. That's what I told myself. But no, she was slipping away, bit by bit, behind texts and fake yoga sessions and nights out that were never with the girls. And Ellie might have known. She might have seen. I couldn't stop shaking. I shut the iPad, placed it gently on the desk, then buried my face in my hands. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just a failing marriage. It was worse, because now I knew without a doubt his daughter might have seen something. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. It was just past 8 p.m. when the garage door rumbled open. Samantha always came home around this time, like clockwork, still in her gym leggings, and that cropped zip-up she thought made her look 10 years younger. I'd memorized her routine. Tonight, she would walk straight to the fridge, pour herself a glass of Chardonnay, and pretend everything was fine. Not tonight. I sat at the kitchen table, the iPad lying face up in front of me, the message thread still open like a wound that wouldn't close. The screen's light flickered across the dark wood. My pulse thudded in my neck. The door swung open, and there she was carrying her gym bag, pulling off her sunglasses like she was stepping into some reality TV scene. "Hey," she said lightly. "You're home early." "Am I?" I replied. My voice didn't even sound like mine. She paused. Her eyes flicked to the iPad on the table. I saw the moment it registered. Just a flicker in her expression, but enough. Enough to make me want to flip the table. "What's that?" she asked casually, walking over slowly. "Did Ellie text?" I didn't move. Didn't blink. "It's synced," I said flatly. She stopped. "What?" "The iPad. It's synced to your messages. Everything you deleted on your phone still lives here." Her lips parted slightly. The blood drained from her face. For once, she didn't have a script ready. I leaned forward. "So why don't you tell me about, Mike," she said, stepping forward with a tight, nervous laugh. "It's not what you think." I picked up the iPad and slammed it onto the table. Don't you dare lie to me. Not after what you've already done." She recoiled like I'd thrown something at her. Her voice shrilled. "Give that to me." She lunged toward the table, trying to snatch the device, but I snatched it back, holding it high, my knuckles white. "I read every damn message," I growled. "I saw what you said about me. About our daughter. You said she was sleeping. You said she wouldn't remember." "Stop," she screamed, her voice cracking. It was a mistake, okay? It wasn't supposed to go that far." Her chest heaved. Her hair stuck to her forehead. For a moment, she looked completely lost. "How long, Samantha?" I asked, standing. "How long were you lying to me while our daughter lay dying in the next room?" She turned away from me, tears starting to stream down her cheeks. "It started months ago. It was just talking at first." "Talking? Is that what you call it now?" I stepped forward. "You told him you'd be his after Ellie was gone." She turned, her voice suddenly sharp. "Because he understands me in ways you never did." The room went still. My heart stopped for a beat, then roared back to life. "You let him near our daughter?" I asked, my voice low, shaking with rage. Her eyes widened. "No, I mean not like that. He came over once. Maybe twice. You were working those 14-hour shifts. Ellie was asleep. I could feel my body trembling. A red haze blurred the edges of my vision. "You selfish, reckless," my voice broke. "You brought a stranger into our home, into her space, while she was sick, while I was working myself into the ground to keep us afloat." Samantha folded in on herself, crumpling into the kitchen chair, burying her face in her hands. I didn't know what I was doing. I was breaking. I felt invisible. And he made me feel alive again. Alive. I snapped. "You felt alive?" While our daughter was slipping away right in front of us. She sobbed, shoulders shaking. I couldn't stand to look at her. I grabbed my jacket, snatched my truck keys off the counter, and stormed toward the door. "Mike, wait," she cried. "Please, don't leave like this." I turned back just long enough to spit the words. "I already left. You just didn't notice." The door slammed behind me, so hard the frame shook. It was cold in the truck. Summer had left the air, and fall crept in like a silent thief. I sat behind the wheel, staring through the windshield at nothing, hands resting on the wheel like they were waiting for a reason not to destroy something. The silence was thick, thicker than anything I'd ever felt. And then it broke. I hit the steering wheel once, then again, until my knuckles split open and blood smeared across the worn leather. I didn't care. The pain felt distant, unimportant. Nothing could hurt more than what I'd just seen. Nothing could cut deeper than watching the woman I built a life with tear it down like it was nothing. Like we were nothing. I sat there for hours, watching night take the sky, watching my breath fog the window, watching the reflection of a man who didn't recognize himself anymore. And I knew, even before the blood dried on my hands, even before the numbness took over, this would change everything. Chapter 6. The Truth. The call came on a rainy Thursday morning. I was in a hospital cafeteria, stirring a cup of burnt coffee I hadn't touched. I hadn't slept since I left the house 2 nights ago. My clothes were wrinkled, my eyes red, my body empty. But when the doctor's number lit up on my phone, my stomach twisted into a knot. "This is Michael Reynolds," I answered. It was Dr. Flanders. He sounded grave. "Michael," the detectives followed up on the bruising report. "The initial forensic review is back. They confirmed what we feared." I didn't breathe. They said the pattern's consistent with restraint. Someone physically held Ellie down. With force. The world blurred around me. The chair beneath me felt like it vanished. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. "Was it a nurse?" I asked, finally, my voice hoarse. "No," he said firmly. "They ruled out any hospital staff. The shape of the bruises, the location, it looks like it happened before she was admitted. Before. At home." I closed my eyes and grit my teeth. "She's with the child counselor now," he added gently. "We're keeping it low pressure, just conversation." But she's starting to talk. I was on my feet before he finished. I left my coffee sitting on the table, untouched, stone cold. The door to the counseling room was cracked open slightly. I waited just outside, unseen. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough. Ellie's small voice, soft and fragile. He didn't know I was awake. A pause. I heard them. Mom and a man. They were in the hallway. He touched my shoulder when I was in bed. I didn't move. I pretended to sleep. The air left my lungs like I'd been punched. "I was scared," she whispered. I turned and walked away. Slowly, calmly, but something inside me snapped. Like a bone too strained to stay whole. Samantha refused to talk. After the confrontation, she packed a bag and disappeared for the night, probably hiding behind some lawyer or friend's couch. When she finally answered my texts, it was cold, short. "I want to talk about this over the phone. You're twisting everything. Leave him out of this, Michael. Please." That was all I needed. She wouldn't give up his name. But she forgot something. Her phone. In her rush, she left it in her nightstand drawer. I found it when I went home to grab some of Ellie's stuffed animals and pajamas. Locked, of course, but her password hadn't changed. Not since Ellie's last birthday, 0211. I guessed it on the second try. I opened her Uber app, searched her ride history. One stood out like a neon sign. Drop-off address matched a location near that boutique gym she'd raved about months ago. Not the yoga place. Some high-end private fitness studio. One-on-one sessions. Trainer. Aaron M. I took a screenshot of the ride, pulled up the gym's website. Staff page. Bingo. Aaron Markson. Mid-30s. Chiseled. Smug grin. The kind of guy who probably thinks leg day is a personality trait. He had a dozen 5-star reviews from lonely housewives and board executives. I stared at the screen for a long time, rage boiling in my chest. Then I drove. The gym reeked of eucalyptus and sweat. Electronic dance, music pulsed from somewhere in the back. Receptionist asked if I had an appointment. I didn't answer. I just scanned the room until I saw him. Aaron. Tank top, gym shorts, tattoos down his arms. Laughing with a client like he didn't have a care in the damn world. I waited until he walked toward the water fountain. Then I stepped in front of him. He looked at me, confused for half a second, until recognition flickered in his eyes. "Oh," he said, grinning. "You must be the husband." My fist balled to my sides. "You know who I am?" "Of course," he said. Leaning on the wall like this was some joke. She showed me pictures once. Said you were a real workhorse. Old-fashioned. reliable. He smirked. She also said you were cold, distant, emotionally constipated. I didn't say a word, just stared at him. That same grin spread across his face. Look, man, I didn't mean to step on your territory, but if you were man enough, maybe she wouldn't have needed me. The room tilted. I saw my fist flying before I even felt it. But I stopped, inches from his jaw. I stepped back, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I wouldn't do it. Not here. Not where it could cost me custody. My job. My daughter. I breathed. Deep. Heavy. Aaron chuckled. Smart move. You'd lose, you know. I stared into his eyes. She's sick. Our daughter. And you were in our house. While she was asleep. You touched her. He laughed. What? I tapped her shoulder. I thought she was cold. I didn't do anything wrong. Jesus, you're really reaching now. You don't get to speak her name, I said through gritted teeth. He raised his hands. Relax, Daddy Bear. If you're looking for a villain, maybe you should check your own reflection. She came to me, remember? I walked out before I killed him. Back through the overpriced lobby, past the receptionist's raised eyebrows, out into the parking lot. Rain fell hard now. It soaked through my shirt in seconds, but I didn't care. I stood there, staring at the sky, water sliding down my face like the fury could be rinsed clean. But it couldn't, because the police had confirmed the bruises, because my daughter remembered, because Samantha lied. And now I had a name. Aaron. Chapter 7. The Breaking Point. The next morning, I woke up on Ellie's hospital cot. My back screamed in protest, my neck stiff from another sleepless night, but I didn't care. She was still breathing. That was all that mattered. Sunlight was filtering through the blinds, casting soft stripes across her frail frame. Her fingers were curled loosely around the corner of her stuffed penguin, the same one she'd carried around since she was 5. I brushed a wisp of hair from her forehead, gently, like touching glass. The ache in my chest hadn't gone away, but it had shifted. The rage was still there, raw, barely leashed, but the fear had grown louder. The fear that I might lose her to all of this, that all the damage done might not be fixable, that the trauma Samantha invited into our lives had etched itself too deep into Ellie's little heart. My phone buzzed quietly on the chair. A text from Officer Jenkins. CPS has filed the emergency motion. Judge granted temporary custody. You'll be the sole guardian until further investigation. I stared at the words for a long time, then exhaled. Relief. Exhaustion. Bittersweet victory. I was officially in charge of my daughter's life now. And somehow, that terrified me more than anything else had. But I'd be damned if I let her down again. By the time Samantha showed up at the hospital that afternoon, 2 security guards were stationed outside the pediatric wing. She wasn't allowed near Ellie. She knew it, but still tried. She wore oversized sunglasses, but I could still see the puffiness around her eyes. Her mouth twitched when she saw me step out of the room. They're saying I abused her, she hissed. I never laid a hand on our daughter. You know that. I kept my voice even. You let someone else do it. That's the same damn thing. Her hands trembled. Michael, please. I was lost. I was drowning. I made a mistake. I shook my head slowly. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You let a man in our house. You let him touch her. You brought poison into the one place she was supposed to be safe. She flinched. You chose him, I added. And now you live with that. The guard stepped between us before it escalated further. Samantha didn't fight. She just turned and walked away. I didn't follow. The fallout came quick. Her gym terminated her quietly. Violation of ethics was the official excuse. The whispers spread even faster. The other moms, the ones who used to smile and call her stylish, confident, enviable, stopped texting. Her name vanished from the carpool lists. Her social media disappeared overnight. She'd built her entire image on being the perfect wife, the devoted mother, the health-conscious goddess with a spotless kitchen and Pinterest-worthy family photos. Now, she was just a headline waiting to happen. But none of that mattered to me anymore. All that mattered was the little girl still clinging to life and innocence. And somehow, I was the only anchor she had left. The days blurred. Between CPS interviews, hospital paperwork, and attorney calls, I barely remembered what day it was. I ate whatever nurses left behind. I slept when I could, mostly on the cot beside Ellie, my hand on hers through the night. I didn't talk to anyone else. Not really. I ignored my friends' calls, dodged my mom's worried voicemails. Instead, I started journaling. Every night, a black notebook I picked up from the gift shop. I wrote everything I couldn't say aloud. The fury, the guilt, the heartbreak, the things I wished I'd told Samantha years ago. The moments I missed with Ellie because I was too damn focused on being a provider instead of a presence. And slowly, that notebook became my confessional. I'd read to Ellie from it sometimes, just the light stuff. Jokes, funny memories, little bedtime tales I made up on the spot. Her eyes lit up when I talked. Sometimes she laughed. Sometimes she just smiled and closed her eyes, drifting to sleep to the sound of my voice. Those were the only good moments I had, but they saved me. One night, about a week later, I was brushing Ellie's hair gently as she lay back on the pillows, clean pajamas and fresh bandages over her foreline. She was stronger now, color returning, eating better, laughing a little more. I still saw the shadow in her eyes sometimes, that quiet wariness she hadn't had before. But she was healing, and I would protect that process with my life. I set the brush down and leaned over to tuck the blanket under her chin. "Comfy?" I asked. She nodded, then looked up at me, big eyes wide and serious. "Dad," she said, voice just above a whisper. "Yeah, baby?" Her little fingers curled around my wrist. "Can I stay with you forever?" My throat tightened instantly. I blinked hard, fighting back the tears that had become way too common. I bent down and kissed her forehead, pressing my hand gently to her chest. "Always, baby," I whispered. "Always." Chapter 8. The Fallout. The first letter came folded neatly in a pale pink envelope. No return address. Just my name, handwritten on the front in Samantha's familiar cursive, the same hand that had signed birthday cards and love notes once upon a time. I stared at it for hours before I opened it. "Michael, I know I don't deserve your time, but I need you to hear me. I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose her. I was broken. I made horrible choices. I still wake up wishing I could take it back. Please let me see you. Just once. Please." The second letter came 2 days later. Then the text started, long, rambling paragraphs spilling guilt and regret like wine over a white tablecloth. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just a conversation. You meant everything to me. I was just lost. Please, Mike. I'm still her mother." I didn't respond at first. Part of me wanted to burn every note, delete every message. But there was another part, the part still curious, still unfinished. I needed to look her in the eyes. Not for her, for me, to bury whatever was left of the past we shared. I agreed to meet her in a public park near the courthouse, neutral ground, open air, no risk of another explosion. It was late afternoon when I got there. The wind tugged gently at the branches, sunlight dancing across the pond. Samantha sat on a bench, dressed simply in jeans and a jacket, no makeup. She looked older, smaller. Her eyes flicked up when she saw me, full of glassy desperation. "Michael," she whispered as I approached. I didn't speak, just stood there, hands in my jacket pockets, jaw tight. "I'm glad you came," she said, voice trembling. "I wasn't sure you would." "Don't mistake this for a favor," I said flatly. "I'm here for closure." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I've ruined everything," she said after a pause. "I know that. I think about what I did every single day. What I risked, what I lost. I didn't flinch. I just waited. I didn't want to lose you both," she said again, voice cracking. "You and Ellie. You're the only good things I ever had. And I destroyed it. I know that." I stared down at her. For a long moment, I said nothing. Then I finally spoke, my voice low but sharp enough to slice through the air. "You already did," I said. "But you didn't lose me to another woman. You lost me to the truth." She looked like she'd been slapped. I continued. "You lied for months. You let a stranger into our home. You risked our daughter's safety. And you didn't even stop when you saw her health failing." "I was blind," she whispered. "I thought I had control." "You had options," I snapped. "You could have told me the truth. You could have walked away clean. You didn't. You dragged us both through hell because you wanted the comfort of both lives." She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. "This conversation is over," I said. "The court date is next week. I suggest you prepare. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. Court was fast, faster than I expected. Ellie's testimony was taken in private chambers with a court-appointed psychologist. The evidence, the bruises, the text logs, Samantha's silence during the early stages of the investigation painted the picture clearly. CPS stood behind me. My lawyer barely had to speak. When the judge announced the decision, I felt something inside me unclench. Full custody awarded to Michael Reynolds. Visitation rights for Samantha Reynolds to be supervised and subject to quarterly review. Samantha sat 2 rows back in the courtroom. I didn't look at her. I just walked out with my head high and my daughter's drawing tucked in my briefcase like a talisman. It wasn't a win. Not really. It was just peace. Finally, word got out quickly. People talk, especially in small suburban circles where image is everything. The rumors spread like wildfire. Samantha's friends, the ones who used to envy her Instagram perfect life, turned their backs in whispers and blocked messages. The moms at Ellie's old school stopped inviting her to PDA groups. The neighbors stopped waving. I didn't take pleasure in that, but I didn't mourn it either. Then came the news I didn't expect. Aaron, the trainer, was fired. Not for Samantha, but for another complaint. Another woman. Another session that crossed boundaries. This one had reported him to HR. They launched an internal review. The studio couldn't afford the blowback. He was gone within the week. No apology. No statement. Just gone. Karma, I thought. Sometimes she shows up late, but she never misses. Back at home, the silence felt different now. Not hollow. Not broken. Ellie was stronger. She smiled more. Talked more. Ate with appetite again. Every night we shared dinner at the table. She'd tell me something silly. A dream she had. A story she remembered. A picture she drew. And every night before bed, I tucked her in and sat beside her with a notebook. Some nights, she'd fall asleep before I finished reading. But other nights, "Dad," she said softly one evening, her voice barely above a whisper as I closed the notebook. "Yeah, baby?" She looked up at me with those wide, searching eyes. "Can I stay with you forever?" I reached down and pulled her into a gentle hug, her small body warm against mine. "Always, baby," I whispered. Always. Chapter 9. The Rebirth. The morning sun poured through the open garage door, washing the cedar planks in gold as I ran my hand across the fresh grain. It had been over a year since everything shattered, since I walked away from my old life, my old job, and everything I thought I needed to be a good man. Now this was my world. The scent of sawdust, the low hum of my planer, the ache in my shoulders at the end of the day that felt earned, not forced. I traded in the 14-hour construction shifts for something quieter, something mine, Reynolds and Daughter Woodworks, carved neatly into a hanging sign I'd made with Ellie the day we opened the garage shop. She painted the "in daughter" part in blue glitter paint, said it made it official. And she was right. Quitting my old job had scared the hell out of me at first. That steady paycheck had been a lifeline for so long. But after the court rulings, after the weight of everything settled, I knew I couldn't go back to the man who once missed piano recitals and doctor appointments just to pour concrete or finish another damn drywall quote. I needed to be here. For her. The workshop started small, neighbors needing shelves, custom benches, porch swings. Then word spread. A teacher needed a reading nook for her classroom. A local bakery wanted new countertop displays. Business grew slow and honest. And I was there for every moment Ellie needed me. Every morning before school, I'd braid her hair the way YouTube taught me. She'd eat waffles in her penguin pajamas, and I'd pack her lunch while she doodled stick figure squirrels in her notebook. There was peace now, and purpose. It was during one of the school's Saturday cleanup days that I met her. Julia. She was kneeling in the garden bed out front, coaxing tiny purple blooms back to life in the cold soil. Ellie had run ahead of me toward the art station, but she paused long enough to tug my hand and say, "That's Miss Julia. She teaches music. She's really nice." Julia looked up as I passed and smiled. One of those smiles that doesn't feel forced, just there like sunshine. "You're Ellie's dad," she said, brushing her hands on her jeans. "I've heard good things." "That's so," I replied, half grinning. Hope she didn't mention the time I accidentally gave her a peanut butter and ketchup sandwich. Julia laughed. Not politely, genuinely. She said you're the best part of her day, she said. Even if you're a terrible sandwich maker. We chatted for a few minutes about music, art, how she just moved into town a year before and was volunteering extra hours to get the kids more involved in creative activities. She had this calm presence, like nothing could rattle her. And more than that, she listened. She didn't fill silence with empty talk. She waited. She saw you. It was strange, feeling something stir again. Not attraction, not yet, but recognition. The slow return of color in a world that had once gone gray. We saw each other again. And again. Not dates, just crossing paths. School events. Weekend festivals. I offered to help her move a busted bookcase into her classroom. She brought me banana bread as a thank you, but also as a test, she said, because if you hate banana bread, this won't work. We took our time. Months passed. She never pushed, never asked about my past unless I offered it. And one quiet evening, as Ellie fell asleep in the back seat after a spring concert, Julia and I stood outside by her car. Crickets chirped in the distance, and the wind carried the scent of freshly cut grass. I know you're still healing, she said gently. I don't know if that'll ever stop, I admitted. Some days I still wake up thinking I'm in that hospital room, watching my daughter whisper that something felt wrong. She nodded. You don't have to be healed to be whole. And for the first time in a long time, I believe that might be true. Ellie was thriving now. She laughed more. Her drawings returned, wild, beautiful explosions of color. She filled page after page with forests and animals, and, lately, a lot of stick figures holding hands. Sometimes it was me and her. Sometimes it was 3 people. Who's this one? I'd ask, pointing. That's you. That's me. And that's Miss Julia, she'd say, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I didn't correct her, because deep down, I liked the picture too. One afternoon, I sat on the back porch while Ellie painted rocks with little hearts and faces. The sun was setting, and my journal rested open beside me. The entries were lighter now. Less rage, more gratitude. I wrote about the peace I found in sanding oak down to something smooth. About the warmth in Julia's laugh. About how Ellie still reached for my hand when she crossed the street, not because she needed to, but because she trusted me. I thought about everything I'd endured, the betrayal, the courtroom, the nights in the truck punching leather until my hands bled. I thought about how pain had shaped me, sharpened me, not into something bitter, but something clear, grounded, real. Because here in this small home full of wood shavings, glitter paint, and laughter, I finally understood. Sometimes life breaks you just to rebuild you better. Chapter 10. What a Man Leaves Behind. The late afternoon sunlight filtered softly through the window, casting a warm glow across Ellie's new bedroom. The walls were a kaleidoscope of colors, hand-drawn stars, rainbows, wild forests, and a multitude of stick figures holding hands. Each drawing told a story of healing, resilience, and a child rediscovering her smile after months of pain. I stepped inside, quietly, my shoes silent against the thick carpet. Ellie's desk was cluttered with crayons, sketchbooks, and an overflowing jar of glitter-covered pine cones, little treasures she collected on our weekend walks. I moved slowly to the window, tracing the outlines of her drawings with my eyes, feeling the room pulse with life and hope. This wasn't just a bedroom. It was a sanctuary, a testament to a journey neither of us expected to survive. The air was heavy with memories, of days filled with hospital beeping machines and nights spent whispering prayers over a fading body. But now here was light. Here was the laughter she'd almost lost. In my mind, I heard the words I'd spoken so many times to myself over the past year, and yet they felt new every time. I thought the worst thing in life was being betrayed. Turns out, the worst is staying with someone who already has. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, my fingers brushing against the smooth edge of the last photograph I had kept, a picture of Samantha and me on a sunlit beach, smiling, unblemished by the storm that followed. I took the photo gently from the dresser. Holding it in my hands felt like grasping at shadows. With a deep breath, I walked over to the fireplace in the living room, where the last logs of fire still crackled softly. I hesitated for a heartbeat, then tossed the photo into the flames. The paper curled and blackened, the faces dissolving into ash and smoke. It was a quiet act, small but significant, a symbol of letting go of the past, of severing the ties that had bound me to pain. I heard a soft shuffle behind me. Ellie's voice, barely above a whisper. "Dad!" I turned, seeing her small frame in the doorway, eyes wide and full of trust. She patted over and wrapped her arms around me from behind, pressing her head into my back. "I love you, Dad," she said simply. I closed my eyes and hugged her tightly, feeling the weight of those words settle deep inside me. What a man leaves behind is nothing if he doesn't first learn what he stands for. And I finally knew what I stood for.